Doc Steve here, and a couple of months ago, a couple friends told me I should do a video on the booster dose. And at that point, I hadn't seen much in the way of misinformation on the booster, and since I mostly do stuff about misinformation, I decided to set it aside. But literally within a couple of days, I started hearing some stuff online and even in person that was misinformation about the booster. And this is the kernel of what I heard. The booster dose was only tested in a couple dozen people. And it was actually put out there as the CDC site has posted that it was only tested in this many people. And I have to tell you, when I first heard this, my immediate reaction was, well, that's completely made up. Let me tell you why. Even if I was totally into the whole conspiracy theory thing to the point where I thought that the director of the CDC was Darth Vader back from the dead. I am your director. Even if I thought that, the fact is, as a medical person, if the CDC actually put that on their site, every medical professional in the whole country would think it was ridiculous. And the CDC, well, they might be evil incarnate, but they're not so stupid as to put something on their website that's completely scientifically ridiculous. So that was my initial response. It's completely made up. But then I thought, well, maybe it's an exaggeration of something that's actually on the site. So I took a look at the CDC site, and I did find a couple of studies mentioned there of the booster dose. One was for 150 people for the Pfizer. It's closer to 200 people for the Moderna, which is still not enough to really test for things like safety and such. But these are studies that could get exaggerated down to a couple dozen. So maybe that's what they were looking at. We all know how that can happen, right? Hey, Bill, did you hear the CDC only tested the booster in about 150 people? That's ridiculous. What are they thinking about over there? Text, did you hear that the CDC only tested the booster dose in like barely more than 100 people? What's that, Bill? 100 people? That is dumber than a stump. What do they think they're doing over there? Hey, Basil, it's Tex here. I just heard that the CDC didn't even test the booster in 100 people. I don't know, them cowpokes over there, they're as crazy as a run-over coon. Yeah, and Bessie agrees. You hear that?
Yes, Tex, thank you so much for calling. And I must say that's simply preposterous. I don't know what those blasted chaps at the CDC are thinking, but might I remind you again, it's Basil, not Basil, you Neanderthal. Helen, it's Basil. Tex just called and told me that the CDC has only tested the booster dose in a few dozen people.
Oh dear, that's simply awful, Basil. I must call Angela. You said 2 dozen?
So obviously 150 can get exaggerated down to a couple dozen, but still 150 is not enough for testing for safety and effectiveness. But when you take a careful look at these studies, these were not testing for those things. These were studies that were testing for something called immunogenicity of the booster dose. And now what is that? Okay, so immunogenicity is the immune reaction of your body to a booster dose. Let me make it a little more clear what happened. So they took 150 people who had gotten the first 2 doses of Pfizer, and they checked their immune function. And that probably included things like antibody levels and this sort of thing. And then they gave them the booster, and a couple weeks later, they came back and tested all that again. And they wanted to see if the booster actually did what we hope boosters do, boosting the immune system. And they found that, yes, it was effective in doing that. Now, you almost might think, well, why do they need to do that? It's a booster dose. Of course it's going to do that, right? Well, you know, they're scientists, and I guess they got to, cross all their I's and dot all their T's, or cross all their T's? How about this one? Scientists need to have all their ducks in a row. That one's easier. So these studies were basically just looking at, does the body physiologically respond to the booster dose? And the answer was yes. And after that, they were then tested in much larger groups, both of them in over 10,000 people, for safety and effectiveness in a real world setting. And they found, guess what? No new safety concerns, and they both boosted the protection against COVID-19 back up to 95%. So I got to end with this, and this is a drum I've been beating all along. I'm going to beat it again, and that is that you have to fact check. Okay, these studies in over 10,000 people for each one of these booster doses had been done long before I heard or saw any misinformation about the booster, and it was a super easy one to fact check. It was a simple Google search. You remember, guys, if something sounds kind of fishy, well, it's a good chance it is, and you got to check it. If you like this video, please check out my YouTube channel. I've got a whole bunch of other videos about COVID misinformation there. It's on YouTube at Doc Steve, all one word. You can also follow me on Instagram too, because I'm going to be posting at least an abbreviated version of every video I do from here on in there. But thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Until next time, see ya. Bye.